Humans are not inherently lazy. It's not necessarily human nature to be a sloth.
No, and you don't know the impact of what your colleagues will think, and you don't know if somebody's making black marks in your HR folder somewhere.
There might be certain things that you really can't divulge yet, but you can divulge certain things and be transparent.
Well, hello, Lisa. How are you?
I am fantastic, Myrna. Thank you so much. It's
I'm
great
so
to be
pleased.
with you.
Yeah, to welcome you to the podcast here. We support coaching and coaches and transformational work. And speaking of transformational work, Lisa Hammett comes to mind. Let me inform our audience real quick. You're a transformational speaker and coach.
I am.
For years and years, and we have a lovely friend in common, Michelle Baker.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen this acronym before. You're a certified PQ coach.
I am.
So I know that has something to do with positivity, but maybe you can clue me in.
Absolutely. So it stands for Certified Positive Intelligence PQ Coach. So I basically am a mental fitness expert, and I use the fundamentals of positive intelligence, which was founded by Shirzad Chamine.
Very good. Well, so much work has been done in psychology. I'm always surprised when a client will bring him something and then I start to poke around, do some research. I'm like, there's this whole body of work about this, that I didn't even know. They throw around phrases like, positive intelligence, toxic positivity, and you've written a book to try to help people understand it. Tell us about your book.
I have. So it's actually the sequel to my first book, which was From Burnout to Best Life, How to Take Charge of Your Health and Happiness. And it's a sequel to that, which integrates a lot of the positive intelligence principles that I now use as a foundation of my practice. The first book is more of like a holistic view of health and well-being, lots of mindset tips,
Understanding
but also
burnout.
Yes, exactly. But this sequel is hardcore burnout recovery. If you're burnt out, if you suspect that you're close to burnout, here are the tips and tools. And it's not just for you personally, it's how do we mitigate it in the workplace?
Yes.
How do we help if we're looking for a job, how important it is to make sure that we're not completely burnt out and that we show up as our best selves, because that's the only way we're going to get a job, right?
Well, and also be happy in that job. What's
100%.
the leaders that you work with in business and then their teams to notice those early signs of burnout. And as an executive coach, people tell me sort of things around the edges. Like, I really used to love my job, but for some reason, I kind of don't care anymore. And I don't know what happened. The people are still great and I'm still good at what I do, but I'm not inspired to go to work and do it. And so they're saying burnout without saying burnout. You know what I mean? They just aren't really quite sure. But you help leaders kind of identify if this sort of thing is happening, and then you sort of have a way to take agency around that and change it. So when a leader comes to you and says, a couple of people on my team are a little wobbly and they've been solid, what do we do about that?
So I would first ask if there were any significant changes that had happened,
Sure.
In the workplace, and kind of get some information in regards to that. If the particular teammate in question had maybe a personal situation that occurred, maybe a family illness, maybe they had an illness or a disability or what have you. So trying to kind of get to the root cause. And then ultimately, I would love to actually have a conversation with the employee as well, because that obviously firsthand can be really beneficial. But it's what I find in a lot of cases, it's just navigating constant change, and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. We lose our compass direction after a while. Which way is north?
Exactly.
The one of the challenges around coaching, and I know because you have positive intelligence as one of your core, principles of how you work, people think if they get referred to a coach, they're in trouble. Like they've been sent to the principal's office. and oh, now they've noticed that I kind of don't care anymore. I thought I was hiding it better. I thought I would just kind of get over it on my own, but I'm not. And now they're going to think less of me, or, I've declined the promotion. So am I now stuck at this level forever? And so, how do you work with people to say you're not in trouble? There are no demerits. You don't have to stay after school and clean chalkboards. How do you help them kind of understand? No, wait, this is for your benefit to restore your joie de vivre, to restore your inspiration at work for you and for our team. We're looking for net positives all around. How do you approach that when they're nervous about, uh-oh, am I in trouble?
Well, I just negate that from the get go and just say, I applaud you for coming and putting yourself first.
Mhm.
Because as leaders, we often don't do that. We have this misconception in the back of our mind that we're invincible, we don't have time. So, this is you putting your best foot forward. And in so many cases, I find that leaders just are fearful of asking for help for
Mhm.
all the reasons that you kind of mentioned, is that they're fearful, oh, I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Or if I decline something, it might be because of workload, lack of support, that type of thing. But then does that prevent me from future promotions?
Mhm.
How is that reflected by my team? So it's all of those things, and really recognizing that that is not the case at all. And when you set firm boundaries and communicate clearly, it's okay. It will be fine.
They
But
have to look
oftentimes we're
forward.
fearful to do that.
Yeah, and you don't know the impact of what your colleagues will think, and you don't know if somebody's making black marks in your HR folder somewhere.
Right.
And at the same time, if you're not sleeping, if you don't care about eating anymore, if you're not paying attention while you're driving on your commute, it's these things at the margin that are like clue, 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 that there's something
Yes.
that needs attention here. It legitimately needs the attention. And you have to kind of set aside, well, what will they think of me? Let's get it right. And then they're going to be back to their rock and roll teammate that they're missing. Let's restore you and not worry about what people thought while you're in that lull, that
Right.
you're in.
Well, and don't ignore the warning signs. That is so important. I ignored them for years, and it led me to burnout, and it almost destroyed my health and well being, my marriage. And as a result, I had just hit rock bottom, and I just left a 26-year career at a high salary without a strategy of how to replace my income, because it had become so desperate.
The
And
only
I
coping mechanism left was to get out of Dodge. That's all it was.
exactly. And it resulted in bankruptcy down the road, because you can't do that. You can't just replace a high salary overnight. You have to have a strategy on how to do that. And I didn't pay attention to those warning signs that you just mentioned earlier. You're not present. You get in a car accident because you're zoning or stressed out about something. You're losing that mental clarity. You're not sleeping. You might have indigestion. You could have chronic tension headaches.
Mhm.
It's those little things that might start small. It's like, oh, I didn't sleep well. I just had it. Maybe I ate something that just didn't
Mhm.
agree with me. Excuse, excuse, excuse. And these are warning signs, and you need to listen to them.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
you're describing the severe consequence of ignoring the warning sign.
Right.
And you speak from personal experience, which is always so powerful. And so I think sometimes to draw a contrast in a conversation, with someone, it's like, well, we can keep doing what we're doing. And how is that going to turn out? Let's just go down the road a little bit
Mhm.
and it stays bad, gets worse. Or, let's look
100%.
at the contrast of what if we just start doing small things, take a couple of steps, acknowledge that we're in a difficult time, even if we don't know why, we can still say things suck right now. We could just admit things suck right now. We could admit we don't know why. And you say, well, that's good because I can help you find out why. I can help you get to the why and then the what to do about it.
100%.
Mhm.
100%.
Well, it's wonderful too. So, can you share a little bit of a success story? Because sometimes people think, well, if he could do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. They're in a lull. You've stopped caring. You don't know if it's the job you're in or the people you're working with, or you're going through menopause. I mean, you just can't really try, in your own mind, because we just think in circles sometimes, and we need an outside perspective to say, so
Yep.
let's take a fresh look. Can you share a story of someone who had the courage to say, this might need some looking after. It's not getting better on its own.
Yes, and it came about in kind of an interesting way. So somebody approached me. She had lost that passion,
Mhm.
and she was a high-level auditor, had a team of people that she worked with, and her job became so administrative, and she wasn't out in the field, and she loved the traveling, especially the international traveling. So a lot of that had changed, but she had lost that passion. But what she found is she was consistently procrastinating on things, which
That's
caused
blue.
un yes, unnecessary stress. And like, why are you doing this?
Mhm.
And after going through the mental fitness foundation with positive intelligence, she recognized that she was fearful that she wouldn't do it perfectly. So she kept procrastinating because there had been so many changes within her team, just at work, restructuring. And although she believed in her teammates,
Mhm.
again, the changes, the fear, how am I going to show up? How is my team going to show up?
Mhm.
So it really presented this manifestation of procrastination. And bottom line, procrastination is a fear of rejection.
Mhm.
And people are like, no, we're just lazy. We like that stress.
There's
No,
a reason you won't
humans,
take the risk. There's
a
a reason you
hundred
won't.
percent.
Mhm.
Yes, humans are not inherently lazy.
No.
They're not. And you can joke about it that, oh, that's not true. No, it's true. It's not necessarily human nature to
Mhm.
be a sloth.
Mhm.
It
Most
isn't.
of us feel like we're born with a purpose. The purposes are different. And then we have some kind of complementary skill set to go with that purpose.
Yes,
And then we live happy lives. They go together. But
exactly.
one of the things I wanted to ask you about is the high achievers. It sounds like you were describing one. And I think I've had this happen to me. You get into a groove where you get really darn good at what you're doing.
Mhm.
And then you're kind of in that zone of mastery. You
Yep.
put in your 10,000 hours or whatever it is, and you're like, gosh, I'm in a glide path. This feels so good, and I'm really good at it. And then things have changed. Now I have to learn this new thing. I haven't learned a new thing in 5 years, and
Right.
what? I'm not good at it right away. So
Mhm.
I'm still good at these parts, but now I'm responsible for this new thing and I'm not good at it. I don't like this part. How
I
can
know.
people not be negative about change is built in, and let's just work on your coping strategies for this change. You will get good at it and it'll be uncomfortable, the uncertainty that you speak of.
Absolutely. So I had a client recently, and she had developed huge imposter syndrome, and she was promoted to a high level position
Mhm.
in her organization. She was in pharma and is in pharma. And actually, she had always been so confident. She was an excellent communicator,
Mhm.
just deserved the promotion, and she was excited about the promotion. But to your point, she gets into this job. She now oversees huge teams globally,
Mhm.
and she developed this enormous imposter syndrome. It's like, I can't do this. Who
What
can
was
I
I
think?
thinking?
What am
What
I
was
thinking?
I
What do I do? And she wasn't one to consistently ask for help. She could figure things out. She's
thinking?
like, I need help. And she just spiraled. And she recognized that she needed help when
Mhm.
she had a conversation with her boss,
Mhm.
and she broke down and started crying, and she's like, that is not me. I don't do that. And her boss was shocked.
Mhm.
They're like, what is going on here? So we worked together. She developed that confidence. She felt more comfortable asking for help, telling people what she needed, really utilize these great mental fitness principles to not only build her own confidence, but to build the confidence of her team, and
Mhm.
to really get that collaboration going. And she flourished. And it took, those steps. Let's take a step back. Let's
Mhm.
calm down. You've got it. You've got the skills. It's a new environment. So let's start those little small steps, like you had,
Yeah.
mentioned
And
before.
what's so great about coaching, and I know your style is so positive and supportive, is you can give people really simple ways to approach something they haven't had to do or haven't had a good way to approach it. So sometimes in your example, you could say, go to that division head and say, now explain to me what you do as if I didn't know what it was, because I in fact don't know what it is you do. Go ahead, explain it to me. And just kind of be fun about it. But
Right.
you admit, I'm the new kid. I've been here 15 minutes now. What do you do here? Just explain it to me like I don't know, because right now I don't know. I will know, but I
Yes.
don't know right now. So explain it to me. And then they get to shine in their area of expertise, and you get rid of the imposter syndrome. You get to say, I'm the new kid on the block. 30 minutes from now, I'll have a better idea what you do, but for now, start from scratch for me.
Yes.
So, and feel okay about that, not feel like you have to hide it.
Right. And they appreciate that when you're open and honest, and it makes you look like, wow, she really wants to just dive in and learn. And that's a great quality. That's a
Mhm.
great quality. And it's a great way to nurture relationships too.
I think too that there have been a lot of changes just culturally, and things are moving faster. I haven't spoken to anybody who said things have slowed down. Everybody thinks
Now,
things are moving faster, and our adaptation skills have to get a little more rapid too. And I know that you speak to groups of people, do keynote presentations. There have been companies that have just made such massive changes. They've laid off 3,000 people. They've closed a division, or they're spinning up a new chip center, and they're hiring people to do that. They're in a big growth cycle. And so tell me, what part of your coaching practice is the presentation to groups in your keynote speaking? Because sometimes leadership needs to just sort of put up the marquee and say, here's the new thing.
mhm.
Here's the direction we're taking. Welcome aboard, everybody. And they would hire someone like you to say, you're going to kick that off for us Thursday night or whatever. So tell me how that works with you.
Right. So when I do a keynote presentation, I start by creating awareness for the audience of really how our thought patterns are influencing our behavior and the behavior of others. And
Mhm,
we often don't think of that, the energy that we're projecting and how that is infecting our team.
mhm,
So creating awareness of that, understanding that, and then learning how to quell those negative emotions, so that you can shift to this positive mindset. Now, in the positive intelligence space, we have 5, we call them sage powers, which are positive powers that we utilize
mhm.
to manage challenges.
Okay.
And we go through those in depth. Like for example, one example could be you walk into work on a Monday morning and it's a complete cluster.
Mhm,
And oh my gosh, what is going on? So the explorer power would say, okay, what's coming up for me? What
mhm,
are the negative emotions? We call those saboteur traits.
mhm,
How are they impacting me, my mental clarity? How is that infecting my team?
mhm,
And are we kind of, negative energy against each
mhm,
other? And then what about this situation can I impact in
mhm,
any way? And
mhm,
if I can't, then you have to accept it and do the best that you can. That's just one of the powers. Another power is empathy. Most people know what empathy is, but we look at it really from the standpoint of like a childlike essence where, okay, you might be in this conflict with somebody and really having a hard time keeping your cool. But if
mhm.
you think about it from the standpoint that we're all inherently good at our core, for the most part, there are exceptions, but but for the most part, we are. And give that person grace, knowing that, what, we have said and done things that we wish we hadn't.
Mhm,
And give this person some grace.
mhm,
And then, focusing on those things that we can't impact. We
mhm,
often do this. We tend to spiral sometimes. It's
mhm,
looking at that situation from the lens of what we call our older, wiser self And
Mhm.
our older, wiser self can see, your whole life before you
Mhm.
and can see this little thing that you're marinating on right now. And in the
That summer
whole
of
scheme of things,
2025, when the thing happened.
right, right, is that really moving the needle on everything? So this is just a broad overview, but it's learning those and how to use them in the workplace. And it can be really eye opening. And then I have a fun exercise that leaders can do with their team just to get engagement. So,
Oh, that's good. Well,
yeah,
I have a couple of questions left. One of them is tips for leaders who are managing teams. And the toxic positivity is a phrase people use. And we know sometimes putting just a fresh coat of paint on a crumbling building doesn't quite do the trick, right? So
right,
when leaders come out and feel sort of Pollyanna or rose-colored glasses or things are looking bright and the ship's taking on water and everybody knows the ship is taking on water and they've done 3 rounds of layoffs. How do leaders, strike a positive tone and still tell the truth so they have validity with the team, they have validity with the
right.
people. So I think your leadership is so valuable there in these times of transformative change in the culture, in whole industries. How do they set a positive tone, but not make stuff up that nobody believes?
Exactly. I'm a firm believer you have to be transparent. Now, I understand there might be certain things that you really can't divulge yet,
Mhm.
but you can divulge certain things and be transparent. And if things are a mess,
Mhm.
just fess up to it. Just say, this is what we're doing to navigate the challenges. We're working on this, but this is the reality right now, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And allow a safe space for the team to share their reservations, their fears,
Mhm.
so they feel like, oh wow, I can actually have this authentic dialogue and share my concerns so
Mhm.
that they feel validated and supported. Because a lot of times, and believe me, after being years in the retail industry and corporate retail, that often happened because, retail is so mitigated on the changes in the economy. And there were just constant mergers and changes and consolidations. And it it caused a lot of discourse, and I had the most respect for those leaders who said, look, this is what's going on. I don't have all the details. I'll let you know when I have them, but this is the reality. But if you need to talk, to vent, if you have questions, I'm here for you.
Mhm.
And I think that is so important.
I have had that feeling too of being in a very large organization and feeling like the leaders have lost the plot. Like,
Yes.
what are they even talking about? This is unrelated to our day-to-day life in the business they're supposed to be running. And then those ideas think I should be someplace else, where the
Right.
leaders are still manning the ship, where there's a functioning compass and they know where we're going, and I could reliably trust that we're going to stay afloat. And so it's a little bit like, one-on-one and individual people, they want to be heard and seen. They don't necessarily even want to be agreed with.
Yes.
They just want to know, I just want you to know Tuesday was really bad, and
Mhm.
here's the reasons, and you just need to hear it from me. Okay, now I've said it. They don't even have to know necessarily, and here's what you're going to do about it. They just have to get it out. I think
Yes.
that's too from a leadership to team level. Sometimes teams just have to be able to say, by the way, that launch, it failed. You could say
Right.
we had some missteps, but I think we're all saying it failed. And so to have say, well, some might call that a failure, other would call it a learning experience, and you'll get laughter from it's like, let's go with learning experience, but at least they're telling the truth. And you
Yes.
don't lose not just the respect, but the feeling of, do I even belong here if they've lost the plot?
100%. And to take it a step further, it's so important for the leader to have the right community around them. And I do a keynote on this as well about, who you surround yourself with,
Mhm.
those advocates that can help you, those peers that can help you, those industry experts, those individuals who have stood in your shoes and now have promoted to where you want to go, having a board of directors, so to speak,
Mhm.
to support you and help you through this because it's hard. I mean, let's face it, it is really challenging in the
Mhm.
workplace right now. And if you don't have that supportive community
Mhm.
around you, it's going to be very difficult to succeed.
Well, and the work that you do, it really helps create cultures that are supportive,
Yes.
cultures that can be in a rocky boat and hang on. And so share with me your thoughts about the future of the workplaces. We've gone through so much change in the last 5 years. There will be a lot of change in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I am hearing from people that are looking for work, whether they've been laid off or whether they've decided where they are is no longer a fit. They're realigning what they're doing with their lives, whatever the reason. They look at culture. They want to
Huge.
know do they backbite each other? Is it a dog eat dog environment? Or is it an environment where people genuinely try to have a esprit de corps? They really value team, and getting a peek at the culture is a pass or fail for some really great talent.
Mm-hmm.
So going future in the workplaces, how are you working with people? Do you have some recommendations for leaders to continue to contribute to culture that keeps people there?
100%. I mean, the biggest red flag that a leader can have that there is discourse is when they have high turnover.
Yeah, yeah.
They really have to assess, okay, what is causing the high turnover? And it has to be these meetings, one-on-one meetings and getting insight and possibly, reaching out to a mentor and saying, can you give me some advice or what is your perception of this experience as well?
Mhm.
But it is very hard for leaders who have this forward thinking and really are caring and concerned about the well-being of their team when they're not getting that support themselves.
Right,
So it is so important for leaders that they have to make themselves a priority, and this is really hard, especially the higher they climb.
mhm,
And because if they don't care for themselves and have the right support system,
mhm.
they will not be that impactful leader that their team needs. So
Right.
they have got to make themselves a priority. And when they do that, they show up in a much more
And
positive,
they're a trusted
beneficial
leader.
way.
They're offering
100%.
steady leadership that people can
Yes.
rely on, and they want to come to work and they want to contribute to the teams. So, sometimes people are surprised in business coaching or consulting that the single highest cost of any business is payroll,
Yes.
because human capital is your most expensive and most valuable capital. And so, investing in people so that they still work well in the machine, they still work well in their settings. And now their inspirational ideas about how to solve that supply chain problem, it happens for them in the lunch meeting because they're committed and dedicated and inspired at work. So
Mm-hmm.
that's priceless to be able to have that, and keeping your leaders tuned up so that they can also lead then the teams is also priceless. So it's wonderful
It
the work
is.
that you're doing. Tell me, Lisa, how do people get a hold of you?
So the best way to get a hold of me is through my website,
Mhm.
and it's lisahammett.com.
Oh,
Just
so
my name, which
easy.
is down there. Yes, .com. And you'll learn about my personal story. You'll learn about my coaching. You can connect with me if you desire. You'll
Mhm.
learn about my speaking. There's
Mhm.
examples of, podcast interviews, keynote presentations, and then you'll learn about my two books as well.
So wonderful. Well, thanks for getting those books out there. Thanks for being available to do the coaching more than ever, helping each other watch the signs, having leaders watch the signs of their teams. When people are feeling like, does any of it really matter anymore? Okay, we should have a conversation.
Yes.
It still matters. You still matter. Let's see if we can realign a little bit. So good to know
Yes.
that you're out there, Lisa. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you so much. I
Lovely to
appreciate
meet
this.
you.
You
Okay,
as well.
everybody, we'll see you on the next one.